MotoAmerica is presented by Dunlop. Dunlop motorcycle tires build the official MotoAmerica race tire right here in the USA. And powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll. Welcome back to the Championship of Utah, MotoAmerica, and we're expected about 29 riders to take the grid for this Supersport race. So, Jason, what are the keys to the race in this one?
Well, you know what, Greg, looking back and just watching some of the race yesterday and thinking about what actually happened, I think Hayden Gillam's got to get a better start. That's one thing we've heard him say a lot this year. Needs to get that ridiculous racing R6 off the line. There's a good look at Hayden right there. We know he's capable of running the pace, but if he can just make it a little bit easier on himself before turn one, I think that's going to be a good thing for Hayden. So, DeBee's rebound. How's he going to rebound? I think he's going to come out swinging. He's ready to go. I think, a lot of times after we do the first race, we can hardly wait to the second race. Well, he didn't get that opportunity yesterday, but this guy here is always ready to race. And so hopefully he'll rebound back from what he did yesterday. And I can't say enough yesterday about how hard this guy was charging through the field. Escalante yesterday was coming through the field, catching that big group, and we'll see what he can do today.
All right, so can Richie Escalante do it? We got some great storylines coming up. That's why we go racing. We'll take a break right now, so stay with us because Supersport is coming up. All right, make sure you join us in the conversation on social media. You want to hit up Twitter. And if you're watching today, go ahead and send us your comments. Make sure you hashtag MotoAmerica Supersport Race number 2. Hashtag BeInMotoAmerica. That way we can grab it through our system and possibly put your comment, your picture, whatever, up on screen. So obviously keep it clean as we look at JD Beach. He's in full focus mode. We'll take a break. Coming back in just a moment.
Welcome back to round 6 of MotoAmerica here at Utah Motorsports Campus in Grantsville. I am down here on the grid with Valentin DeBeese. Valentin, after a very tough decision to retire from the start of the race yesterday, are you looking to ride more aggressively or more conservatively today to make up as many points as possible?
I don't care much about the point. I just care about doing the all race this time. For sure, I'm more angry than yesterday. But I will just try as always to take my break points and put as many good lap time as I can and hope to have a good battle with these two guys. They're looking great yesterday, so I'm excited and let's see how it goes.
Thanks, Valentin. Good luck out there.
All right, so I'm excited for
What's
him.
great about him is if you come to any MotoAmerica races as fans, get next to the fence when these very first sessions, when the start of the sessions happen. This guy is hammering from turn one on. He doesn't take any time getting himself up to speed. He just goes, and the hard work he pays off as the weekend usually starts to go through. Here we get a good look at Hayden Gillam. Is he going to get a better start today, Greg? You think?
I don't know. I had a long talk with him about it, and I said, "You ever think about going to the drag strip?" And he told me, "Well, between now and Barber, he's got our races and he's got 4 flat track races." So he's like, "I don't even know if I have time." Let's get back down to Hannah.
I'm down here with Braden Norris. Braden, you were in the battle for a podium finish yesterday, your first of the season it would be. Are you looking to change your riding style, or have you changed anything with the bike to kind of change things up for today?
Yeah, we made some changes with the bike and my lines as well. So I'm really thinking that I can fix those areas that everybody was catching me up and hopefully retain all my good work in the areas where I was gapping them. So I'm really thinking if I can put everything together with the changes myself to the bike to my mindset, I really think that I could be up there battling for a podium, and I want to be. I'll be there.
Thanks, Braden. Best of luck.
All right, and of course, at VIR race number 2, he was able to put it second on the podium, and that was quite a spectacular race for him when Hayden Gillam had an exit.
I literally saw him running around an hour before the start of this race in his leathers, everything, and he looked like he was frantic, like he thought the race was getting ready to start, and DeBeese even said something to him like, "Hey, I'm like, what's going on? Am I missing something?" Good look at JD Beach here. And he's ready to go. This guy's going to be right at the front, and now he knows he's got DeBeese. You can see over his shoulder there, Corey West TSC Racing guys got their first podium yesterday, Greg, and they made some changes overnight to that motorcycle as well.
Did they? I know they made changes to JD Beach's motorcycle, and I'll tell you about that as we take a look at our starting grid. Same as yesterday, Valentin DeBees, a 153.387 on pole.
Great job, Hayden Gillum, JD Beach, row 1. Row 2, Bryce Prince. Let's see if Bryce can get a little closer today. I know he wants to run with these guys. Nick McFadden, good job in 4th. He's trying to get that podium. Corey West just outside of row 2. Then we got Richie Escalante, a guy I think we got to watch today. Braden Norton, see if those changes made. Michael Gilbert as well. Miles Thornton, Anthony Mazziato had a great chat with JC Camacho about his run yesterday. See if he can keep it up and run with them also. Ezra Bovier, Benjamin Smith, and Lucas Silva, row 5. Then we got Wyatt Ferris, Daytona Anderson, and Caroline Olson just outside row 6, Greg. And then on back even further, row 7, Kinzer Naylor with a great run yesterday. Got himself into the points. Ashton Yates, Robert Pierce. We got Fernando Silva, Jarrett Nassani, and I see him back there. So he's going to make the start after his little incident. And we got Jeremy Simmons. Then we got Nolan Lampkin, who's actually a scratch. Unfortunately, had a problem with his bike and won this morning. Ryan Richardson, Edgar Zaragoza, and Ryan Harper, also a scratch. Ryan separated his shoulder a couple of days ago, Greg. He thought better than to get out there with these guys. So there is a mouthful there.
There is. And Jason Aguilar, who's on the Ridiculous Racing team, he won't be starting this either. Same as yesterday. So he had qualified 8th, and that was the shift as Braden Norton now moves up to 8th. And you saw obviously Caroline Olson, who was on row 7, now up in a row 6, and so on and so forth. So they're on the warm-up lap now for the Supersport race. And of course, it is scheduled for 15 laps around Utah Motorsports campus. Now yesterday, if you hadn't joined us, we talked about it. Valentin DeBees was a do not start. He had a leak, a fluid leak. Something that could not have been avoided actually until you actually go out on the racetrack after he crashed. There was a line puncture, and until you build up pressure in the coolant system, the team started that like 3 times in the pits trying to build up some pressure.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of leak, so he didn't start. So it was JD Beach who won. Hayden Gillum in 2nd spot by 1.3 seconds. Corey West had a great run to finish 3rd. Nick McFadden, Braden Norton, 5 and 6, and on back through the field. Our last points scoring position was Caroline Olson on the Caroline Olson Racing TSE Racing Yamaha. So it's going to be very interesting, as obviously one of the greatest things about MotoAmerica is the fact that we get 2 days of racing for the full top-level program of Supersport, Superbike, and the Kamali Junior Cup. But this particular day greets us with sunshine, but dramatically different temperatures, which a lot of these racers are looking forward to because it was sucking energy out of them, but also it was greasy. Now, Jason, we talk about tires being greasy.
Yep.
What does that really mean?
Well, it can change from rider to rider, Greg, depending on how good your bike setup is, because if your bike setup's good, your tires are going to be better throughout the course of the race. But what it can definitely do is as your tires go off from one rider to the next, it can be a little greasier for some than it can be for other. What that means is the bike's going to start moving around underneath you. It's going to start breaking down underneath the heat and under some of the forces and things that you're putting through the chassis. So when a tire gets greasy, that's what you start to feel. And generally when this heat, when it gets really, really bad out there, and like I said, Greg, it can really change from one rider to the next. So, but today, a lot cooler temperatures for them. I think probably some 10 degrees cooler, if not more. We do have a lot of sun where we had some overcast earlier, which was really nice for these guys in warm-up this morning.
So JD Beach wins the race yesterday, but the Monster Energy Yamaha Extended Services Graves Yamaha rider, they weren't resting on their laurels. That bike, when the tires started to go off halfway through the race, wouldn't finish the fast corners. So he and his crew worked on it because they know Hayden Gillum's making changes and they know how fast this rider is, Valentin DeBees. So yeah, it was a 1.3 second victory, but when JD Beach got off the motorcycle, he said, "Now we have work to do." And the changes they tried this morning in the warm-up session seem to have paid off.
Always got to make changes. You always got to try to figure out a way to make the bikes a little bit better. And then this is another area, though, Greg, where when the conditions change, the bikes can change as well.
Race number 2, Supersport, getting ready to get underway. Who's going to get that jump into turn number 1 and lead us? It's time to find out right now. Valentin, good launch. JD Beach also with the rocket, and our boy Hayden Gillum again getting swallowed up.
Yeah, that's just a bummer because we know what he's capable of as far as the pace goes and things like that, and it's just a shame to see him. Where's he at, Greg? Back in like 4th or 5th, it looks like. Getting back there.
Yeah, 5th. He's got to work his way into 5th.
Looks like he's got. Is that Nick in front of him?
Yeah, Nick McFadden, Braden Norton right there.
Yeah, Braden
so
Norton,
JD Beach gets the whole shot. Valentin DeBees hot on his heels. Braden Norton with another good launch on his Fastline Performance tuned racing Yamaha.
You You see some clouds in the background. If that stuff came over the top of us, it would be great, Greg. It just cool things down. But here we go. Hayden's already trying to get up the inside of Braden Orr. Doesn't want to let those first two guys get away. So he's made quick work of it, but there's already a little bit of gap. So he's going to have to push really hard now and hope that JD does what he's going to do here. Maybe going underneath the bees. Nope, not quite. Yeah, Valentin DeBees got a great drive out of 5, didn't he, Greg? To slink past him. And you can see a little bit of contact maybe between Ort and Gillum. Yeah, and Ort got shoved back a little bit more. Nick McFadden now trying to make that move. Ort's just behind him. So those guys get racy. Look what happened, Greg. There's that start that he was talking about. All of a sudden, there's a second and a half between Hayden and the guys in the front. Made his race very difficult again.
That magic part of Kentucky, the Owensboro-Philpott area where J.D. Beach and Hayden Gillum and Nick McFadden all hang out and train out. Ryder down.
Corey West.
Oh, no.
What a bummer. Is that going to be maybe turn 5? Got a podium yesterday, and second races haven't been good to him our last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
What a shame.
2 in a row, meaning 2 second races where he's crashed out of. Last time he crashed out as well, but the focus is back up front. Valentin DeBees, J.D. Beach. Now, Jason, in talking with Hayden Gillum, who's in 3rd spot, he was talking about how good he was in Sector 2 and Sector 3 and how JD controlling the pace really affected his lines and his ability to go fast.
Yeah, but see, this is worst case scenario when you're Hayden now. When you have 2 riders just in front of you, the way he's got them now, they're going to be able to work together and try to get away. Hayden's got nobody to push his own wind. If you have 4 riders as JD takes the lead, if you have 4 riders, Greg, sometimes it can work for you if you're that guy catching, like we saw at Escalante yesterday, because they can get in each other's way. With 2 guys like this that are going to they've raced each other so much, they'll work well together. That's the problem now that Hayden's got. These 2 guys will work together a little bit easier.
J.D. Beach with a bit of a more inside line. He really gets that motorcycle turned well. Talking about, in improvements they were trying to make to that Yamaha R6 of J.D. Beach's. John Ethel, his crew chief, told me that because JD had the problem pretty much at the halfway point of the race with the tires getting a little bit greasy, they sent him out on his race rubber from yesterday, so tires that were already used this morning to try to test that. And that's part of that experience that you get from a crew chief and rider combination that allows you to make these changes that hopefully are going to pay off in the race.
And we've seen this in the past where JD likes to lead the way he is right now. He did draft Valentin as they went down the front straightaway. We'll see if Valentin can do the same. You know, at Laguna, Greg, it looked like to me like he was kind of sitting there waiting, and JD just he gets into that attitude. It's a bit wide, and Valentin's going to go right back past him. So that's just getting in there just a little bit too fast and running yourself a little bit wide. You can see that group behind battling for 4th. Nick McFadden's got himself there again. Boy, if he could have just latched on the back of Hayden, it would have really helped him, because he's going to be pushing his own wind also.
If Nick can get up there, then maybe that might be the push, but I think advantage there goes to Hayden Gillum with J.D. Beach's mistake. So, because in a way, when you shuffle these 2 riders around, it was like Hayden got back a 10th or 2. The problem is that Hayden understands that when he gets these bad starts, he asks so much from his Dunlop tires in these first couple of laps that it really hurts him at the end.
But he's closed the gap from the first lap, and that's hard to do. The thing is that you're constantly trying to break a little bit deeper, and you're trying to just do a little bit more, and sometimes that can just work against you as far as tire wear. You can see JD didn't quite get committed just enough to get up underneath Valentin there, but he's right there with him.
So Valentin DeBees M4 X-Star Suzuki, our pole sitter, leads the way. He's also set the fastest lap of the race on our first fast timed lap. So we're in lap 2, and of course a 154.7. He qualified at a 53.3, so really about just a half a second off of where he qualified. So the pace already pretty frantic, and this is what these 2 riders would like to do anyway. They're going to put down some really fast laps at the beginning and try to break the rest of the field as we shuffle back. Nick McFadden, and there is Bryce Prince on the 74 making money moves.
That's right. These guys are all going to try to close back up, and right now you can see Braden trying to look back. A little bit different, wider line there for Nick. So Nick is taking the bike a little bit deeper into the corner and trying to carry a little bit more roll speed through turn 6 there. And you can see the other 2 guys having a little look underneath him.
McFadden in a fierce battle for the podium yesterday, lost out to Corey West, who's now out of this race. With Valentin DeBees in, obviously we see now there's that gap back to 4th, 5th, 6th. So it's Valentin continues to lead the way with J.D. Beach. There's Hayden Gillum locked in no man's land on the Ridiculous Racing Yamaha. M4 Med-Age Suzuki of McFadden leading the way for Bryce Prince, who's on that SC Project KWR 600.
The pace is definitely faster right now, Greg, throughout the field. These guys are all solidly in the 55s right now. Remember yesterday, there's Escalante behind these 3 guys. We saw him actually catching these guys yesterday, and he's just not been able to bridge that gap to them so far today.
We also saw Escalante later part of the race in the back of our screen had a couple problems with that rear tire. It was spitting him up and out of the saddle. So coming across the line now, Valentin led with a 54.5. JD Beach with the fastest lap of the race at a 54.499. That's probably draft right there. Side by side they go. Beach, that thing snapped sideways on him, so not the normal smooth sideways that JD likes. So he had to kind of get off of it and get the bike back in line. So hold on for the moment. Valentin de Bees continues to lead.
Yeah, right now, just looking at what's happening, they've just that gap now has gone from 1.2 to 1.6 from the leader, so 1.4 back from JD Beach right now to Gillum, and it's just so hard to continue to push that hard rate throughout the race. And yeah, and these two guys, they know how to work together, though. You know, they're not really gonna mess each other up in the turns too much, or at least we haven't really ever seen these two guys come to any kind of real blows on the track.
No, and also the characteristic is so wide here. There's many lines that you can take to get through a corner and make it work for you. We've seen that in the different classes that we have here, including the Liqui Junior Cup. Those little bikes, you can take 15 different lines in one corner and still make it work for you.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And that's the neat thing about Miller, though. It's so wide, and it's such a fun track because there are a lot of options. You heard Braden talk in the pre-race there about how he's going to try to change a couple of lines. So he's probably worked with a few people or seen a couple things that we saw from yesterday's race that he'd like to change. You can see now Hayden's got a big gap on this guy, on all these guys behind. You can see Michael Gilbert back there, and then you can see Mazziato as well. If these three guys trip each other up at all, you could see as many as 6 people get back up onto these guys.
Michael Gilbert, 55, he's back in the back there at 8th spot. Had a lot of confidence after the warm-up. Here's a little replay on the front straightaway, heading into turn number 1 in this battle for 4th spot. Like Braden's line, you know?
Yep.
Braden Orr on the red bike, looking through the corner, not concerned about Bryce Prince on the outside. Bryce had to lift just a little bit because he was turning right into the Canadian.
Yeah, it's a good move, though. Great move for him there. Very committed to what he had to do there, getting down into turn 1.
JD Beach now leads the way as he goes into turn number 1. When they came across the stripe, it was Valentin. So a draft and pass move a little earlier for JD. He was committed to turn number 1, so he'll take the point for the moment. See if JD tries to pull the pin and break away from Valentin de Bees. We've seen it with 5 laps in a race before where JD tries to make this work for him. Here comes Beach. He's had a little time to study where Valentin is quicker.
He likes to lead, like we've talked about.
He does. He's got the old Josh Hayes syndrome in him.
Yep, that's good. Hey, 4-time Superbike champion. Not a bad syndrome to have, right? Yeah, just don't forget about that.
JD Beach in his own right, a world champion, 2008, won the Red Bull Rookies Cup MotoGP style. Won that and kind of opened the eyes for a lot of people. He's had stints on Superbikes in the past and has settled into this amazing career in the Monster Energy Yamaha Extended Services Graves Yamaha, where he's had a number 1 plate before, gave it up to Garrett Gerloff, who graduated into the Motul Superbike class and now trying to get that number 1 plate back.
Yeah, and this is where it always looks to me like Valentin has pace. And but JD's just such a good rider up at the front the way he is right now. 54.5. So they've gone the best time, Greg, they've gone is 54.5. I believe they went 54.2 yesterday. De Bees, this is where he's really good. I went and watched this section the other day, and he direct lines it straight out of here right into this next right. There's no way anybody's going to go underneath him through that right. He carries so much roll speed through turn 13 and is on the gas so early. And all this little section here, he straight lines it so hard.
I mean, Jason, Valentin de Bees, when he's back home in France, he's actually a tester for a different brand of tire, not Dunlop, a very different characteristic on the front tire. And it always impresses me on how much he trusts the setup of his motorcycle and that Dunlop front when he gets into racing, considering that he is just back and forth from one tire brand to another.
But when you get to these guys' level, Greg, you don't hear that stuff being talked about as much. It's rubber. Black is black, and these guys, what they try to really think about more than anything is just adapting their abilities and adapting their riding style to whatever tire they need. That's why he's such a good rider at what he does as far as being able to give the feedback and the information.
So last time by 55.1 for De Bees, 55.1 for Beach, a 54.9. So 0.2 of a second from Hayden Gillum. That's got to be the most frustrating part of it all, I think, for Hayden, is he's doing the times. I mean, he's only a couple tenths off when it comes to their fastest outright times. And so it's that seesaw battle, back and forth and back and forth. And it looks like Hayden's closer I think now than we've seen.
It's 1.6. It was 1.8. Now it's 1.6. He just needs those guys to just trip each other up a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
54.9. These guys in front both did 55.1s. So we did see a little bit of passing, right? So that's what you're seeing. It's just got to be so frustrating. You wonder how much Hayden thinks about that during the course of a race when he sees these guys. These runs a little bit wide there. And see, that's what happens is you're pushing so hard that you just lose a 10th here, a 10th there, and it's really discouraging. Hayden just keeps his head down and keeps pushing. And you know, Greg, he's able to run the pace. We've seen it in practices and in qualifying. He can do the same laps as these guys. But when you give up a second on the first lap, it makes it really hard to catch back up.
That's it. I mean, I mean, over a course of 15 laps, you need to be at least a 10th of a second quicker or so for the front competitors to be in the mix, to be competitive. So, I mean, when we talk about getting good starts at Utah Motorsports Campus, we say it's probably not as important as most places, but what's important is not if you're first, second, or third, if you're really close to second or first, you know, if you're third, and that's the gap that we're talking about. So another lap clicks off. We have 9 to go in this one. Valentin DeBees at 54.8, JD 54.9, Gillum 54.6. So Hayden Gillum, just even with the mistake he had in the attitudes, still went his fastest lap, and this race continues as now Bryce Prince has taken over 4th spot, and they're starting to gap Nick McFadden a little bit. So Bryce Prince in 4th, Braden Ort in 5th spot as the maturation of Braden Ort continues. And talking with Mike Pond, of course, on the Fastline Performance Tuned Racing team, wants to keep Braden Ort one more season on a 600, wants to expand his program because MotoAmerica is going so well for that Tuned Racing program.
Yeah, Mike's done such a good job with that team, and he's got a great young rider that he can really build a program around. You can see now 1.4, Greg, 54.6 that time, like you say, for Hayden Gillum. So he has closed that gap again. So.
But the question really becomes if he can close that gap and get on the back of JD Beach. For the tire situation, because we're getting to that magic moment halfway part of the race where we saw a lot of the riders telling us yesterday post-race that that's when things started to really get greasy on these Dunlop tires. It was so hot yesterday, though, it didn't matter what tire brand you were on. It was going to get greasy no matter what.
Hayden's closed it a little bit more. It just looks by the visual eye here. He has closed it. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And
the Bees wears them out a little bit through this little section from the attitudes, and this is the turn he really rips in here. I mean, he is so fast there. He's literally, Greg, gets on the gas about 20 yards further than anybody else. The reason for it is he tips it in there, he gets off the brake real early, releases the lever, rolls through the apex of that corner with a ton of speed, and doesn't care about where he enters the next right. So he gets on the gas so early, you can hear him pick it up, or late, but he gets to the next turn so much quicker. So it's going to be, and JD is going to take note of that, of how hard it is going to be to pass him down through that little area.
Looks like Ezra Bobier, Cameron's brother, down. Number 97 has crashed out of this one. You can see right part of your screen, that graphic.
Fastest lap of the race for Hayden Gillum, 54.4, doing it by himself. There's Ezra there. Not exactly sure exactly what turn that is.
Yeah.
But that's a shame for him.
So Hayden Gillum, 54.4, like Jason said, fastest lap of the race, but still 1.1 seconds. So that's him, mid part of this race, absolutely beating these Dunlops up. They're taking the punishment, no doubt about it. But how much energy as well. Part of the sponsorship program on that Ridiculous Racing. Just underneath that sticker, you can see it says Whoop right there under Ridiculous Racing. A lot of people ask me what that's about. That's actually a wristband that he wears that measures his vital signs all during the course of sleep during the day. They download the data, and they're actually able to track his entire race weekend in terms of heart rate and how it works. And I guarantee you on this race, when they download that data, it's going to be at 95% the entire race distance.
Yeah, man, I cannot tell you how hard a work it is for him. He is doing such a great job right now. Just saw one of the M4 bikes pulling the pits, Greg. I'm not sure who it was. I'm looking down the screen. It might have been Daytona. I don't see him. Oh! That's what I'm saying, Greg. He's pushing so hard. For him to run these kind of consistent laps, trying to chase these guys the whole time, he's literally on the edge. So you're exactly right. That whoop thing, the whoop sponsorship he has,
we saw a
big spike there, didn't we?
Yeah, if there's any heart rate left, replay.
Yeah, you're going to see this is coming down through the attitudes, and it's just going to step out on him just a little bit. Those guys start looking at those outside tiger teeth as an exit point. They try to drive the bike towards him, but you can see he got on the gas just a little bit earlier than he needed to before he got to the apex and just spun up on him.
So close.
But he's doing, even his tuck looks really good. If you look at, he's a big guy, and his tuck, I'm not sure if that's something that him and the team have actually worked on, but you see he's over on the left by himself. These two guys can work together to keep getting away from him. And but his tuck looks a lot better.
And that's it, the warning sign. That's the biggest gap we've seen in the last couple laps for Hayden Gillum. Such a shame. He started to close the gap with that little warning sign from his rear tire, I think.
Greg, he still ran a faster lap than 2 in front of him. He still went 54.5, so he's a second. He's 1 second behind, 0.6 behind. He's only 0.6 behind JD right now. But he's still coming.
He's still working on it. All right, so this is the battle for 4th place. It continues to rage on as Bryce Prince. Oh,
no. That is fast. That's turn 3, turn 4 area. That's going to be the exit of turn 3, Greg. That's going to be squeezing the power on a little bit early, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that. That's probably a high side off the inside of the bike. So usually in these kind of conditions, or this kind of case in a fast corner, it'll snap around off on the left side, and then it'll high side you off the inside of the bike. Let's just hope he gets up and gets moving okay.
Hayden Gillum, a heartbreaking run after he has set the fastest lap of the race. He is out, and that's going to leave this battle now between Bryce Prince, Braden Norton, Nick McFadden for the final spot on the podium. And had a talk with Braden Norton. He's put himself in the position he needs to. Of course, Bryce Prince on the podium would be something spectacular as well.
He's back up. So we're actually hearing that Hayden is back up. That's incredible. That's going to be a big fast crash over there. There he is.
So Hayden Gillum.
Visor's gone. So
trying to tell him maybe pull off. Such a heartbreak. He's such a great guy, great crew. Robert Ward, the entire ridiculous crew down there working so hard on that motorcycle. That is a great spec R6. So it's basically, in essence, the same bike that you see JD Beach on right there. It's a bike that they get from them. You know, they spend money in the ridiculous racing crew to get that motorcycle, and man, heartbreak for them. But back up front, Valentin DeBees continues to lead the way. JD Beach in second. So 54.6s for those riders. Bryce Prince, Braden Norton, Nick McFadden, Richie Escalante, Michael Gilbert, and Anthony Mazziato. So all these riders moving up in the order in terms of their position. Is Ort with a good job there. So Braden Ort on that Fastline Performance tuned racing machine. He's got word now. He's seen that Hayden Gillum's out. They're going to know that this is the battle for 3rd spot.
Yeah, this is the same position these guys were in yesterday, and both Braden and Bryce are hungry for that podium. And you can see Nick is Greg. He's got to get on the podium. He has to.
It's just, and we saw Nick
trying so hard,
and we saw Nick dig so deep in the last 2 laps yesterday, and nearly get it. So, you know, nice tight line from Nick there. It looks like his GSX-R 600 turning really well in this section of the racetrack. The M4 mid-age Suzuki rider trying to close the gap and get right back up as Bryce Prince, the 74, with a look over his shoulder.
And the two guys behind, Escalante and Gilbert, are working together. 55.9, 56 flat for those two. These guys in front are just like 3/10 quicker. They're just away, otherwise we'd have a 5-way battle for that podium spot. So here we go, Greg. This is where Nick's just got to just get himself back close to these guys so that he can try to sniff some sort of draft going down that front straightaway. That's what he needs.
You know, the exit of Hayden Gillum at this point, too, pretty dramatic for the championship chase. Halfway through the season, a little past. It's 57 points for JD Beach over Hayden, who's in second in points. If JD's able to win this one, and Hayden, who's up circulating, we believe, credited with 22nd, is out of the points, that means the points would extend to 70.
That's a big lead, isn't it?
82 points.
Yeah.
That'd be massive for JD Beach. But all he's focused on right now is trying to win this race. He had what we call unexpected.
Hayden just pulled in right below us here. I just saw him pull in, Greg.
All right, so Hayden Gillum does the right thing, especially with no face shield. You don't want to go out here and race at speed with that. Yeah. So that's going to blow this thing wide open for JD Beach. But in talking to JD and his crew, they thought it was a bit of an unexpected win yesterday. They thought that JD really only had a motorcycle that would take him to second or third. Thought Valentin DeBees, with the pace that he had, was going to walk away from it. So Valentin, you know, one of the things too, Jason, is they don't have the race distance yesterday. So basically, the setup that they have, all they had was a little bit of extra time in morning warm-up this morning if there were some more changes. So advantage definitely JD Beach, and he is latched onto the tailpipe of Valentin right now, trying to figure out a way with about 4.5 laps left in this race to figure out how he's going to pass Valentin and make it stick.
Yeah, I think that he's just kind of measuring him right now, and It's interesting though, because we know JD how much he loves to lead, and this is kind of the section 26 flat the last time in the last segment for you. Get a good look at Hayden. Feel bad for him, but Greg, it all starts with the start, doesn't it? I mean, it just makes it. Unfortunately, it makes it such hard work, and we can't stress that enough. But
unlike superbikes, that have a little
wide there, just a little bit.
Yeah. Valentin, a good look at his trail braking technique. 2-finger on that brake lever, rolls off of it, starts to get on the gas. You can see the Dunlop tire choice. Medium front, soft on the rear. So Valentin DeBees having his way right now. You see the back of his helmet. To kiss, as DeBees, I'm told, in French means to kiss.
Yes,
that's what I was told. So there you go. A little education on the back of the helmet. That information,
JD,
by the way, came from
takes the lead.
Hannah. JD Beach with the lead with 4 laps to go. He's figured it out, and maybe he feels at this point, even though that little wide drive out of that corner, that he's got the measure of the bees, and maybe he sees some weakness in Valentin's riding, maybe possibly the tire wear. So JD feels now's the moment. He's going to try to break the bees. You can tell always by the attitude of JD's body language. When he really gets aggressive, you can see him moving around. Part of what makes motorcycle road racing as great as it is. Watching the riders' adjustments on the motorcycle as they ride, but JD looks aggressive, but a little wide, Jason, coming out of some of these corners.
Only just a little bit, but that doesn't hurt him too bad coming out of turn 5, believe it or not. That's not gonna be too big of a deal. He's gonna hook it back here in turn 6. Looks good out of there.
Valentin DeBees now with the education. Taking another look at JD now with more laps on his tires. Beach traditionally has more of a point-and-shoot riding style. And last year when Dunlop introduced a new rear tire that was actually a smaller rear tire than they've been using, the tire they've been using for years was a Moto2 tire, and Dunlop developed a tire that would fit on this stock wheel of the R6 GSX-R 600. When that came out, JD and his crew a little lost in terms of how to get the bike to work for him. But they've got it dialed in now, leading this championship. JD trying to notch another win here in Utah. As this is since MotoAmerica began, this is our 8th race in Supersport. And of the 7 runs so far, JD's knocked 6 of those wins.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, but these guys have both taken their chances leading. They both know where each other are strong and where each other are a little bit weak. I think that Valentin in the last segment, even though I know JD's got the fastest segment time there, it's always a little easier when you're the carrot there to have a carrot dangling in front of you. Both bikes look still like they got a lot of grip. They're both going fast. 54.4, JD's fastest lap of the race for him. Just a little tick off of what Hayden's quickest lap of the race was.
Hayden Gillum, of course, did that on lap number 7 of this and now exited after a big crash in turn number 1 in the pits. That left it to these two on their own. Now 12 seconds adrift of the battle for 3rd place, which is still being won by Braden Nord at the moment. JD Beach, typical riding style for JD. Loves sending it sideways, but that is a pretty wide exit for JD. It works for him in the moment.
He does that though great, because you see what he does. He goes into turn 6 a little bit tighter. So what it does is it discourages anybody from thinking about going up underneath you going into turn 6. So he runs a little bit wide out of 5. It doesn't really hurt you because it's not that big of a straightaway, and then he can just run it a little bit tighter to 6. So he's already kind of showing Valentin that you're not going to be able to go up underneath me into 6 and push me out of the way. But this is kind of the section where the Suzuki looks like it works really well down through all these attitudes, and then even through this next fast left. It seems like it works really well, although he's a little out of shape going in. It looks like he missed his tip in just a little bit, did Valentin there. You see that that's why that gap is created. Valentin missed his tip in point just a little, and it gets a little off camber there. That's why you see the gap. But he's so good through this little section. This is where Valentin's bike looks great. And JD's right back to doing the same thing. I mean, both these guys are taking no entry into that right-hander.
We get to the closing of this particular lap as we come onto the front straightaway. JD behind the bubble. This is going to be 2 laps to go in this one. That tip-in created, I think, this little bit of a gap. It went from 1/10 now to 3/10, but JD Beach now with the fastest lap of the race, a 54.1. So obviously everything working great for the Monster Energy YES Graves Yamaha rider. Of course, Valentin DeBees in chasing JD, that carrot you're talking about, Jason, did his fastest lap of the race, a 54.345. told you, JD.
Yeah, he loves it, doesn't he, JD? He would rather have, both these guys would rather have a race like this than to win going away. It just gives you so much more satisfaction when you have two guys that are just grinding on each other as hard as they are right now to try to pull away from one another, not being able to do it. So this just keeps your focus and your concentration so high. And you're going to see JD, he'll probably be, like you say, Greg, a little wider out of there. Him and Valentin doing the same thing. Enters a little bit tighter than DeBees into here, but you can kind of square this thing up a little bit and cut it back. The second apex there isn't like really important. DeBees gets on the gas a little earlier there. That's why you see it kind of run out onto the curbing. It doesn't really hurt him.
So I think if you're Valentin right now, what's going through your mind, Jason, this has got to be the lap, the clean lap. You know, no mistakes in this one, just to keep JD at bay. Nice little move through that last couple of corners as Valentin closed up a couple of bike lengths. They got eyes are focused right now on checking out on acceleration, how well those Dunlop tires are holding up for these two riders. JD Beach, tighter
a little bit wide there. There's a little mistake by Valentin, so he's pushing, trying to close that gap and get a little look at Hayden Gillam's bike. And he crashed in that left-hander, Greg. But if it was any kind of high side there, which it kind of looked like by his initial feel, we didn't get a chance to look at it. Here we go. Lap L1 left +0. And he runs 54 flat to a 54.2. So JD just pulls a lap out with 2 to go. He runs quickest lap and quickest lap. DeBees is going to have to hustle hard down through 1-2 here to try to get anywhere close to him to do something with him later in the lap. Across the line also, that battle for third just passed us. 3 bikes are tied together. Here they come. Or
Nick
McFadden's in the draft of Bryce Prince when he went by us. Let's see if he tries to do something with Ort as they tip in also. Is Bryce going to let off the brakes? He does. He lets off the brakes. So Nick just didn't quite get far enough.
So Nick McFadden on that one. By the way, Jason, a 54.0 for JD Beach in that last lap. He qualified at a 54.1.
Yeah, that's fast. But I think that's a lot to do with the conditions as far as it being a little tiny bit cooler out there. That's going to be something to do with the conditions. And you know, Greg, he's got such a big point lead. And I'm not sure if he's going to know that Hayden is out of the race. And look at Ort goes in there nice and tight. That's, you know, I like to see a young rider make an adjustment, not open that door. And you can see he's going to run it over to the right side of the track, much like Beach has been doing. He's going to enter there nice and tight. There's no room for these guys. Now, all he's got to do, he can slow his mid-corner speed down if he wants. But as he comes out of here, he's controlling the race from the front is what Ort's doing there. Great job for him. JD, on the other hand, he's just all head down and bum up, just going through this last fast left-hander. Now, here we go, back to that battle. Bryce had a shot at it, but Ort does a good job of closing that off again as well.
McFadden looked like he had to roll off of it a little bit through that section. So McFadden's got to think about it as well. If anything happens to these two riders, he's going to be there to collect, but McFadden's got to be closer if he's going to have anything to do. Last lap, JD Beach, Valentin DeBees trying to ride the wheels off of his M4 X-Star Suzuki, little wide there. Here comes JD Beach on the gas, and he will come across the stripe and take his second race win here in Utah. Valentin DeBees third, with Valentin DeBees setting the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. We'll talk about that in a second, because here comes that final podium spot. Onto the front straightaway they go. Any draft possible. Braden Ort head down, and the Canadian will take his second podium appearance of the season.
Yeah, that's a great job for Braden. He said on the grid that he wanted to try to get that bike on the podium. It's exactly what he did.
No give up in Valentin DeBees. As we continue to watch riders finish up here. Number 72, Miles Thornton in 9th spot, coming to the line. So Miles Thornton will take a nice, comfortable top 10 finish. Just behind him will be JC Camacho.
Benjamin Smith comes across the line. He got his first top 10 yesterday, finishes 11th. Lucas Silva is going to get 12th. I'm watching this battle. Ashton Yates comes through. So Ashton's going to take 13th. Caroline Olson, another points playing position for her. 14th looks like Wyatt Ferris. I think Wyatt maybe ran off the track a little bit earlier in the race. He's going to get our last point paying position.
So hats off to this guy. He set his fastest lap of the race on the last lap of 1:53.898. But Valentin DeBees, who was chasing fiercely, a 1:53.881 and the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. You want to talk about tires holding up in a torrid pace? That was it. Oh, by the way, Valentin DeBees' qualifying lap, a 1:53.387. So on the last lap, the fastest lap of this race, only half a second off of that pace. So JD did what he had to do on that final lap, his fastest lap, but Valentin DeBees just not enough, and JD, it'll be in the record books. Half a second, 0.558 will be the margin of victory on this one. 16.9 back to Braden Ort.
Yeah, tremendous job for JD Beach and for Valentin DeBees. Both those guys, 53.8. I mean, I got friends that do track days that think their tires are wasted after 15 laps or 20 laps. These guys are breaking lap records on 15 lap tires, you know. So yeah, it kind of goes to show you the kind of stress that these tires can definitely sustain.
After yesterday's misfortune of not racing the race, Valentin DeBees always with a smile on his face. The M4 X-Star Suzuki rider just enjoys the fight. I'm sure he would have loved to win, but a big smile under the helmet. Being that close, and he knows how to put on an entertaining race for the fans as well. So the cool-down lap after race number 2 here at the MotoAmerica Road Race Championship here in the United States, as we're wrapping up round number 6 for 2018. So Braden Ort, I talked about this yesterday. You know, it was really hot yesterday, and one of the things that this Canadian from Calgary area isn't used to a lot of the heat we have down here in the States, and so his team brought him to California and made him ride an entire day in 108 degrees. And I'm sure him experiencing that, along with just continuing to pound out lap after lap and learn on that Fastline Performance tuned racing machine. Braden Ort with his second podium appearance of the season. Of course, he had that second place finish at VIR number 2 back a few months ago, and now we'll have another opportunity to stand on the box with JD Beach and Valentin DeBees this time. And when he did it back in VIR, JD Beach had won that race, and Braden was in second spot, and third place was Corey West. So he shared the podium with JD Beach before. Now he gets to share it with the man who holds the fastest lap of the race on lap 15, Valentin DeBees. What a great, you could just see Valentin. I mean, the way he pushes the bike. Yep. You see, and that's the greatest thing about road racing, I'm telling you, is you can see those you can just see that body language change when riders are really putting their heads down to try to close it off.
No, and I went up and told him today, I said, man, Valentin, I said, I love watching you ride. I like the way you go through your routine of your weekend, just watching what you do, but this guy deserves a ton of credit. I mean, JD wants to go out and win every race, and you and I have talked about it in some of our Superbike coverage. There are some riders that might be moving around, but one thing we got to think about is, what if JD Beach wins this championship again and he dominates the series? Where does he go? Is there a spot for him somewhere where we can maybe see JD back on the Superbike? He essentially started his career on a Superbike, if you remember, and it's at Kawasaki got to be 7 years ago or something. So
he led a race here, as a matter of fact.
He sure did. I always remember that. I remember him tipping off in turn 13.
Yeah.
And I remember that, you know, but he was just coming into his own, and it really hurt his confidence and hurt some other. It took him a little while to get back up on his feet, and he went to a number of different 600 teams after that. Obviously, he's found a great home with Yamaha, and we'll see if anything pans out for him in the future here with Superbike.
So JD Beach victorious, Valentin DeBees in second spot, Braden Ort in third. Bryce Prince, Nick McFadden, and Richie Escalante, and hats off to Michael Gilbert as well, who in seventh spot after making some changes. Gilbert still on his way back from recovery from an incident earlier on in the year. Anthony Mazziato in eighth spot, Miles Thornton in ninth, and JC Camacho in 10th. When we come back to UMC, we're going to talk to the podium finishers and get their take on how the race went for them. Stay with us. Welcome back to Utah Motorsports Campus, where Supersport is wrapped up. So let's get right down to Hannah, who has our, well, probably Braden Ort.
Yeah, I've got our third place finisher, Braden Ort. Braden, huge smile on your face when you came into Park for May for your second podium of the season. Tell us a little bit about your battle with Bryce and Nick.
It was a great battle, like start to finish, and it was a lot like yesterday, and I fell back yesterday, so I was a little worried. I wanted to make sure that I got all my bases covered, and we did a lot of work last night and figured out where I was doing not so good and where I was doing well, and we made a lot of setup changes today with the bike, and we did a lot of work behind the scenes, so it really worked out well, and we had a tough battle. Like for the first half of the race, actually until the last couple of laps, and then I really tried to put my head down, make sure I made no mistakes, and I was looking at my timer and it all showed pretty consistent, so I knew I was doing okay. And then I saw my pit board +0, then +2, then +4, and it was great. I love that feeling, but I still had to work hard right from the end of the race, and it really worked out well for today.
Well, congratulations. Thanks, Braden.
There you go. Ort. They're loving him at that Fastline Performance Tune Racing crew there. And so a good job by Braden Ort. And by the way, as you can see on the bottom of his fairing, it says it all. I think I'm going to take
awesome,
a wild guess here and say he's single.
I don't think that'll last long if he keeps doing what he's doing there and gets that kind of TV time for sure.
So great job by Braden and his crew. This could be something, the start of something really special. All right, let's get down to Hannah, who has our fastest lap rider on lap 15. Hannah, take it away.
Fastest lap and second place finisher. Valentin, you were leading for most of the race, still a second place finish. Are you happy with these results?
Yes and no, because regarding every trouble we went through all the weekend, it's a good result. But in my heart, I want to get the win, and it was difficult for me. I was thinking to lead, and then I was watching the big screen, and I saw GD was right in the back of me. So I was like, okay, I let him go and see what I can do. But then I was struggling to follow him and to make a pass again. So trying to be closer to make a pass at one point, I did a mistake. So it took like maybe a couple tenths. And I pushed really hard into the last lap because I knew he will make a mistake at some point, and I wasn't close enough. He did the mistake, but I wasn't close enough. So I still went inside the last corner to see, but he's not stupid. So he went to the inside and didn't let me pass. So anyway, it's a good weekend. Thank you to my M4 Suzuki X-Star team. I cannot wait to be next races and fight again. I have to get this win.
Congrats. Thanks, Valentin.
Best thing about him, he just loves and all focus is on winning. So
Loves the battle.
Yeah.
And the process of it. And we saw that little mistake he made. This is coming through the last couple turns here, but great slow motion shot by our crew out there. But Valentin loves to win. Obviously, we all do. And the thing about it is he loves a good battle. Let's get back down to Hannah with JD Beach.
Back-to-back race wins for you this weekend, but a lot more pressure from Valentin DeBeest today. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, I mean, DeBeest, I knew since he didn't get a race yesterday, he was going to be wanting to get the win. And I mean, he was riding really well. And then we gapped Hayden a little bit. And then I saw the gap come down and down, and he was right there, and I knew he was riding really good too. And it sucked that he crashed. And for me, like after about lap 5, I started losing the front tire a lot, and it was making it really hard to ride. But after about lap 10 or so, my Yamaha extended service Graves bike really started working better, and it was like I was on a completely different bike, and started going faster, and I got by the beast and just try to put my head down the last few laps, and I went the fastest I did all weekend, and it felt great, and I'm really looking forward to the next round.
Nice job. Thanks, JD. Congratulations.
Very interesting. I think that Jason kind of shows like where the crew's head was, because he said after the tire went off, it got kind of weird, and then all of a sudden the bike just came in and started feeling great again.
No, that's exactly right. And that's what can happen sometimes. When you start pushing harder, sometimes your bike can work even better. So many times at these club races, I see guys 3-4 seconds off their best pace. They want to make changes. It's like you can't do that. You gotta make the changes as you get on pace. And you can still see last lap both these guys. And I tell you right now, JD is a racer. He'll look and he'll go, "Oh my gosh, Valentin beat me today. He actually got the faster lap time." But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, JD. You're going home with the big trophy. And here's a good look at our results. JD Beach wins the race. DeBeast second. Braden Ork, fantastic job. And third, Bryce Prince, Nick McFadden. Keep plugging,
So
Nick.
close.
It's going to come there.
And Bryce, really.
Bryce too. I expect a little more out of Richie today. I thought he'd be up there with those guys. Michael Gilbert, best result of the season. Anthony Mazziato, 8th. Keeps getting those points. Miles Thornton, 9th.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back to UMC in just a minute.